Hello, everyone. Hopefully, everybody is keeping up with the schedule okay. The personal narrative essay was kind of a hurdle, but we're past it now, so you should breathe a small sigh of relief there. The public performance assignment is coming up quick, however. In terms of difficulty, I would say it's about the same amount of work as went into the essay, but it is more of a creative project, so the process should be more fun. There is a lot of moving parts to the assignment, so let's start from the top to understand some of the basic principles of the public performance. To start, this is a course on rhetoric, public communication, and professionalization, so it makes sense to include a public speaking exercise. In line with the broader course, this assignment also touches on the theme of personal storytelling, insofar as the thesis of your presentation should be rooted in your own point of view. You can also use personal experience as evidence, just like in the essays. In addition to these returning course themes, we are also going to add a couple of new lessons into the mix. The first new lesson is research. Some of you may have done a little bit of research already for your statement of purpose, but this assignment will require everyone to learn about research at a deeper level. We will learn something called the research process, and everyone will need to use research in order to strengthen their presentations. In the end, the research will add a sense of expertise to your presentation, or in rhetorical terms, research will add ethos to your point of view argument that you will be making. The second lesson here is multimodal composition. The term multimodal is just a fancy way of saying that for this assignment, your composition will be more than just text and writing. It will also include images, and you can even experiment with sound if you think it'll help your presentation. The multimodal element has another dimension as well. In a typical CAT125 course, we usually present in the classroom during sections. But because this is an online course, you will instead need to make a video recording of your presentation. So, with attention to this multimodal project, you will need to exercise some video production and editing skills. A little side note, we do lose something when we take this digital approach. Presenting to a live audience in the classroom is really difficult, but on the bright side, you gain a lot of skills when you're put there on the spot and under pressure. On the other hand, the digital format has its plus sides. Especially nowadays, digital recording of video has a lot of application in real professional life. For example, one day you might do a job interview and they will ask you for a video recording in which you respond to some of the questions they give you. So, being able to record yourself and think about all the digital production issues that go along with it is a real life skill. In sum, digital communication is still public in its own way. There's still a rhetorical situation there, you still have an audience, and the rules of rhetoric still apply. Okay, so now that we have a grip on some of the basic elements of the public performance, let me get into some of the details that are in the prompt. As outlined in the prompt, this assignment is modeled after a couple of different real-world examples. The first model to keep in mind is an Ignite speech. Ignite is a speaker series where experts deliver a presentation in a particular format. This format requires them to automatically time their slides so that each slide advances at every 15 seconds. The format also requires that the speakers complete their presentation in 3 minutes flat. The whole purpose of this showcase is to promote public speaking in general. So the topics are kind of all over the place, and it's really just a game or a challenge for the purpose of education and entertainment. The second model to keep in mind is a This I Believe speech. This I Believe is a podcast program that is hosted by National Public Radio. The idea of the program is that people make a short presentation based on their personal outlook on everyday ethics. In other words, the speakers make an argument about the world that is rooted in their personal beliefs. It's not an abstract argument, it's a point of view argument that is grounded in personal experience. The third model that we want to keep in mind is a TED Talk. Now, it's possible that none of you have heard of some of these other programs that I've mentioned, but I'm pretty sure everybody has seen a TED Talk. The thing we want to take away from this format is the conversational tone and the style of the presentation. TED Talks try to merge scholarship with entertainment so that the information is more palatable to a public and non-expert audience. Hence, instead of presenting a boring academic lecture about the facts, TED Talk speakers are storytellers. They turn facts into an entertaining story that the audience can relate to. They talk with the audience, not at the audience. And they often use humor and other rhetorical devices to get their message across. In the end, the audience becomes more receptive to what the speaker is communicating to them. These three different formats that we're using to model the assignment might seem like a lot to keep track of, but it isn't too bad if you just keep your mind on the basic lessons that we're trying to take away from these examples. With your public performance in mind, the Ignite format is a clue to form. That is, in practical terms, all we really care about is that the presentation is 3 minutes long, that it has 15 to 20 slides, and that the slides are automatically timed to move along every 15 seconds. This puts a little bit of pressure on you, and it's a good and healthy way to develop your public speaking skills. The thing that we're taking away from a This I Believe speech is content. That is, we only really care about the part where the presentations are based on personal points of view and that they're about everyday ethics. For example, in your presentation, you might want to talk about tableside manners, or you might convince us that we need to care about sustainable energy. The TED Talk format is just a clue to rhetorical style. The only thing we really care about here is that the speaker uses a conversational style and they use storytelling as a rhetorical strategy. If you put these elements together, we get the main ingredients of the assignment. Okay, so talk about research requirements. As explained, the thesis of your presentation should be a point of view argument about everyday ethics. But you need to strengthen your presentation with formal research. This means that you need between 3 and 5 scholarly sources that provide relevant information about your topic. Let me clarify what a scholarly source is. A scholarly source can be an article that has been published in a peer-reviewed journal. It might also be an article from a reputable newspaper that has an editorial process and a fact-checking process. And it might also be a government document or government data. The main idea here is that the sources that we use in our scholarship need institutional oversight and gatekeeping mechanisms. This doesn't mean that the sources we find will have no bias attached to them, but it's the best that we can do in pursuit of the facts. It's good practices. Hence, blogs and articles that come from special interest groups are not acceptable sources, because these are more prone to bias. And for good measure, try to avoid opinion articles and entertainment magazines. Note that your research needs to be cited in your presentation, and you also need to have a works cited page at the end of your slides. Another thing to mention about research is the research process. It's kind of like the writing process, but for research. Anyway, there's a series of steps that are involved, and you need to follow them one by one. First, you need to begin by doing exploratory research to help you find a topic that you're interested in. This will require looking at a number of sources as you try to define your topic. The next step is to start narrowing your topic into something more nuanced and specific. Once you discover a more nuanced topic that interests you, you need to start focusing your research and going deep into whatever that topic is. At the same time, you need to develop a research question. Basically, your research should be motivated by a question that you ask of it. Eventually, you'll be able to answer that question, and that answer is essentially your argument or your thesis. Now, before I leave, I want to leave you with a couple tips for video recording. Everyone should be able to complete this assignment with a few basic technical tools, including Google Slides and the video recording function on your computer. Depending on what you have access to, you might also be able to use PowerPoint, Zoom, and a number of other programs that you can find. Whatever works to get the video done is fair game. To try to make this as close as possible to a live speaking engagement, I highly encourage you to try to figure out how to get a talking head on the corner of the screen as you have the slideshow in the background. This might require a little bit of technical gymnastics in order to record yourself talking and then have the slides in the background and make it all into one single video. But if you know how to do that, please do. On the other hand, these technical hurdles might be a little bit difficult for people to do. And so if it comes down to it, just having a slideshow with your voice recorded over it is an acceptable format. Everything else that you need to complete this assignment is in the prompt and in the assignment resources in the modules. In that resources tab, there's a guide to the assignment. There's also a PowerPoint about the research process, and there's also a PowerPoint about ethics. In order to successfully complete this assignment, everyone is going to have to look at all three of those resources.